Hello and welcome to the 10 Million in 10 Years podcast. I'm David, your host, and I've got Andy Rowden with me today. Welcome, Andy.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Long-time listener, first-time guest.
It is. First time. Here we go.
Do you remember how you initially stumbled across the content?
I think I was just scrolling through Spotify or one of those, looking for podcasts I might be interested in while I was on the plane or wherever, and it came up and I started listening and enjoyed it. Really enjoyed hearing people's stories, and so just kind of got stuck in and continued to listen.
Stumbled across
Still
it.
enjoy people's stories. Yeah.
Love it. Oh, that's so good, man. And so we were just talking before, you spent a bit of time traveling, a bit of time on planes. Why don't you just start with a real traditional intro, just what you do, what the role entails.
Right, sweet. So I look after the delivery for a small business that I'm involved with, First Principles Constructors. We design, build, process buildings throughout the country. So staff of sort of 50 to 60, right from design through to delivery. That's kind of it. So apples, hummus, meat, anything that needs a process around it, we sort of get involved in that.
Yeah, right. So you've got the internals of the building, the actual production stuff, and then you guys do the exterior.
Someone smarter than us does the shiny stuff, all the stainless, all the bits that make it work, and we look after the envelope, but we work incredibly closely with each other to make sure we deliver the right outcomes for the customers, right?
Yeah, right.
They get a building that makes things at the end of it.
Yeah, right. It is pretty niche, right?
It's pretty niche.
Pretty niche, yeah.
There's groups of people that do it differently, better, different, worse, whatever it is. But we've found a way to better do it, and we do it quite quickly. We seem to be quite good at it. It's kind of nice.
Does it
try really hard, to be fair?
Yeah.
It is a competitive space. Construction's an incredibly competitive space, so we work really hard at being the best we can.
Nice. How long have you had it for?
There's a group of, they say about mates shouldn't become colleagues.
Yeah.
I'm completely opposite. Everything I'm involved with is all with mates, and I love it. So there's a group of us that found ourselves out of a job 6 years ago, and we got together and thought we could probably make something work, and we did, and haven't sort of looked back. It's been an incredibly fun ride.
Wicked. How good.
So sort of one of those things you always dream of. I've worked for big construction businesses sort of through my life, and you always dream of having something or how you get something. Until you have it, you don't quite realise the challenges that all those people that have had those things have gone through. So it was kind of a full circle thing. It was quite good.
Before we get into the episode, I just want to say a big thank you to Tom Hardy for supporting this episode.
Thanks, Dave. I absolutely love what you're doing, and thank you for having me be a part of it.
Tell us a bit about this new site.
Mate, it's all about the people. I've loved making the move and getting great results for our clients.
Wicked. Let's get into it. Funny story. I was in the airport maybe 4 or 5 months ago. It was before you came to any events or gotten involved in any way, but I saw a logo that caught my attention.
Oh, yeah.
And it was your logo.
Yeah.
And so I Googled it and I was like, First Principles Constructors. And I was like, damn, that website is nice. Yeah. And I went on this deep dive, and it was just serendipitous that you had stumbled across the podcast and come to an event.
Well, I think our airport presence is strong because we've placed value in looking after our people. Like that is what any business is kind of the same, right? If you've got the best people working as hard as they can with as many roadblocks removed as they can, then they're going to be the best they can. And so you will have noticed them carrying a North Face duffel, Huffer t-shirts, all of that. We try and buy quintessential New Zealand gear, but all of the best gear so they stand out, and they do in airports. So you'd be amazed how many people have that exact yarn.
Really?
They're there. We know there's a couple of people that have moved on since, and we still see them carrying their duffels with black tape over the FPC logo.
Yeah.
Go to a rugby match in Wellington on a Saturday, kids rugby, and you'll see kids running around in hoodies, and it's really good.
Yeah, right.
It's important to build. One of the guys we set up, Steve's incredibly passionate about brand, incredibly passionate. So all of that's down to his drive and making sure that stuff's right. Just being relentless with the small detail. That I'm not particularly good at small detail, but he's relentless with that. So the reason we're so established and so far above who we are, we really have a presence that's strong. that you wouldn't expect from a business that size.
A massive thank you to Casbolt's Motorcycles here at 6 Gaston Street for sponsoring the episode of the 10 Million in 10 Years podcast, authorised dealer of Honda and Ducati motorcycles.
Has that been the original logo, the original brand asset from the start? Do you remember?
So, yes, but no. So we established as FPC. It was First Principles Constructors, but we built this logo that said FPC. And I remember sitting with some, I think it was the marketing guys or something. We just weren't comfortable with how it was sort of portraying. I've just got to own, and the marketing guy was really good. He was really good. He's like, you just got to own who you are. You got to own that you're First Principle. And from then out, we removed FPC. FPC is still who we call ourselves, but we owned the First Principles Constructors, and then it's really just had small iterations since. The byline of making complex simple was really interesting because we had a project to deliver first and foremost, and that was why we established ourselves to build a project. And we were sitting in Auckland. The project was just out of Auckland. Sitting in Auckland one afternoon, we went down to meet we had a brand person that was helping us at that point, and he just sat down and he just went, "Hey fellas, you guys make complex simple." We're like, that's exactly how it rolls. So that grew legs really quickly. It was really interesting at that point. We didn't have time. There's no time to think about it because we all, the six of us that established FPC, had no time. We were delivering a project. We were designing it. We were building it. We were managing it. We were doing all of that stuff ourselves. So we didn't have the benefit of time to better thrash these things out to the nth degree, and that it led to some pretty special outcomes.
And then it stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you may not have processed it at the time, but it was obviously meaningful enough to.
Yeah. That's right. Oh, and the black and yellow. It's been black and yellow since the start too.
Is that right? Yeah. Yeah. Ultra. I don't know. Like it just sticks out.
I didn't understand the whole. There's a colour science piece where if your red you're seen as strong, but got to be careful you don't put yourself into the angry bracket. There's all sorts of things. And we kind of loosely got into that, but I'm not quite sure where yellow sat in the end. Hopefully it's just having fun.
We're not too sure. I think it would be fun, right? Happiness, fun.
I'm happy to roll with that.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't necessarily what you first think of when you think of like commercial infrastructure building, right? But I mean, hey, let's go with it.
Yep.
Yeah. It's also a term like first principles. It's like I've tried to search this many times just to find what exactly it means. Are you able to explain that?
For us, so I think it bore out of I'd love to lay claim to having the name, but actually Jason, again, one of the other lads, very bright when it comes to this sort of thing. And I think it harks back to if you just breaking stuff back to the core. So just going right back to the start and going, well, is that the right solution? Is that the right budget? Are all of those things right? And then building from that, rather than taking something that, like, we challenge and test everything. We aren't dictated about what we build or aren't. We don't suffer from preconceived opinions of what something may be. We try to go right back to what it should be. And the same as the guys that deliver the buildings, like, it's really important to them that we don't just take status quo as necessarily the right answer. Like, they're quite happy for them to go back. So I do every now and then I find myself in a meeting where I'll talk about it without actually forgetting where I come from, talking about first principles and making sure we go back there. Completely unintended, which is just quite nice, right?
That's true authenticity.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard it mentioned several times in books and like in the technology world, North America in particular.
Yeah, right.
Right, the whole first principles thing. It's a thing.
You're right. Okay.
Yeah, and so that's when it sort of dawned on me when I saw the logo. I searched the website and I was like, oh, maybe this is weird.
Yeah.
Serendipity.
You'll take it. Yeah.
100%. And so with the team that you've got in place, are they a combination of management on the tools kind of guys or?
So there's in the management or the exec team, there's a combination. So there's a CEO and a CFO who sort of are lucky. They sit, or not lucky, they've got tough jobs, but they sit away from the day-to-day delivery. And then there's Jason who looks after kind of the front end, and he's an engineer with an estimating crew. And then there's a group that work with me in finance, in commercial, so the building, finance, design, safety, those elements. And then we have a core group of people that work within that are typically project management based. So site based, but not doing, managing. We've got a couple of sister or businesses we work closely with that provide that on-site labour. That's just the next level of challenge. We have 60 staff. If you wanted to take in some of that site-based thing, suddenly you're talking hundreds of people that 60 is enough to look after.
Different animal, right?
Yeah. And then you have that next challenge too of consistently trying to find work that suits that group of people. There's not too many construction businesses that do delve down that far.
Yeah, right. Gotcha. And so the scope of your work is all over the country.
It is, yeah.
At the moment.
So we have projects down south, far south, so Araroa, which is it's halfway between Goran and Invercargill. So right as south as you can get. We've been building on the west coast. We're building out of Timaru, and then we go as far north as we're just about to look at a project in Dargaville, which is north of Auckland, and then right through the Waikato. We're about to go back to New Plymouth. So
yeah, wow.
We have a footprint. We build in all the places where most people don't really want to go.
Yeah, right.
It tends to be where New Zealand produces most of its food and produce. We've completed jobs in Wairoa, so about as isolated as you can get.
Yeah, right. Wow.
That's the fun bit, though. That's the whole new challenge.
Totally.
That's the complete, because not only do you have to work out how to build a building, you got to work out how to get product there. You got to work out how to get people there. You know, on projects we've had to establish concrete batching plants to be able to make it work.
How do you do that? Just out of curiosity.
We sit around in rooms a lot and lots of time on the phone.
Yeah.
Talking about how we're gonna do something. I'm incredibly lucky that we have incredibly bright people that work for us. That they solve problems all day, every day. That most people wouldn't know where to look at. Like I'm blown away every week where I go to things and go, how did you do that? We're building a project in Auckland at the moment. It's a new meatworks, and there's these the air bridges for all intents and purposes to move carcasses around. And the guys came up with a plan. They couldn't find fabricators in Auckland to make it, so they convinced a guy out at Leaston to take the wall off his workshop to produce all of the lamb tunnels there, put them on a truck, super over width, and ship them the whole way to Auckland and lift them up as well. Blows my mind.
Lateral thinking.
Very, very smart. Very smart.
I like that. Do you find that when you've got your team, do you find that people play off each other? Do you find that it's like a exponential type thing?
When you get that team that works and is high performing, then they're all playing off each other, and they all lift each other. When people are having off days too, the opposite can be said. When you've got a team that hasn't quite worked out how to gel together, that's an absolute nightmare to try and get anything done, isn't it?
Totally.
And you see all sides of it because you don't get it right all the time.
No.
It'd be nice if you could.
Yeah. That's it, right? Big and small. It's always the one thing. It seems that it always comes down to the people.
I think the one thing you can never. So, as long as people make effort, then teams typically seem to work, because you can deal with people not having the same knowledge base or the same skill sets. But if someone doesn't want to make an effort, then it can really pull the whole team down.
100%. Yeah. Have you found that that's always been the culture? Has it always been a high performance culture from the beginning? Yeah.
I think because of size and our ability to connect, we're able to be part of all the people's lives. Like we're about to be immersed in it with them, and we hire a lot on fit, not on competence. I guess kind of figure that you can teach someone to do some things differently. By default, if you hire on fit, you typically get the most competent people. But that's not how you go into a conversation. You go into a conversation to work out how they're going to gel with the team to get the best out of that.
Yes.
And I'm not sure I don't know if that, I did an MBA a few years ago. I'm not quite sure that would have ticked the HR box in the MBA learning. You know, that's not quite the way you should hire. You know, you should tick some competency boxes, make sure they've got the right degree and done the right training. But none of that matters if they don't fit.
Yeah. When was that after like an initial degree, or did you just go?
Oh yeah, that's my lifestyle training is a wee bit challenging. I did undergrad, I did undergrad law and undergrad geography and sociology, of all things. But whilst I was at uni, I picked my courses depending on. So I fell into those because I picked courses to give me a Wednesday and a Friday off.
Oh yeah.
So I could get a job or go to the pub, to be fair. And I got a job working for a mate of mine who owned a building company. And so I worked building on the tools every Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. And by the end of uni, I sort of did hours calc and some things and worked out that I was super close to having completed my apprenticeship. So I went and worked for him for 6 months, did my apprenticeship, and that's the thing that I've relied on actually. Went overseas, and that's the building trade is a thing I've relied on through my life as kind of where my career's grown from, which has been quite interesting because trades back then weren't really they were kind of the frowned upon career to choose. Nowadays, everyone's into them, and it's so good to see. It's so exciting to see that they've become a viable career option. But yeah, back then they weren't really. You had to go to uni to get a proper job.
Yeah,
and
right.
Since then, I keep myself quite busy because I guess I enjoy that. But I've done a fair bit of postgrad study, and I've done my MBA, and I've been to a few of the overseas business schools to try and learn some stuff and test what I think and keep the grey matter ticking over.
Yeah, right.
Don't lose it. If you don't use it, then you run the risk of it just disappearing.
Absolutely. Yeah. So continual learning is important.
Yeah, I think so.
Both in a formal and an informal,
I just really enjoyed challenging myself at work, at play, just to see, because there's a capacity thing that we all think we have. We all have a capacity that, you've got to stay within that. But actually, when you start to push yourself and you start to learn more or do something differently, you realise you've got this whole new capacity, and that the things you thought were once impossible suddenly become possible. It gets me to some dark places, to be fair, sometimes. Nevertheless, I did an adventure race a couple of years ago from Fiordland across to Dunedin, and I think I nearly thought I bit off more than I could chew when we were in Fiordland bush trying to smash up a hill in the middle of the night at moving at 1 kilometre an hour or something like that. But it is amazing how, even though if you're not fully prepared for that, you have this resilience within you if you test yourself and you're allowed to push yourself, that you can do it. It's not. I don't think it's too dissimilar with business or with learning or any of those things, that if you don't challenge it, then I don't know. I kind of think, what's the point? I'm sure there's all sorts of different viewpoints on that. But that's kind of how I'm wired, unfortunately.
It's a fascinating thing, isn't it? The whole glass ceiling.
Yeah.
That thing that we put on ourselves sometimes, or not, as the case may be. But there's often no reason to cap yourself. And like even the name of this podcast, I was talking to a previous guest about whether 10 million is too small and whether that's actually a limiting thing or not, because it could be.
Yeah, it's also there's a challenge there for you, isn't there? Because that's one measure. But if you get there and you don't have your health, relationships, whatever, all of those things, is it still a success?
Oh, I totally wouldn't think so. No. And I'm pretty specific on that, just in terms of the way to get there is not by any means possible.
Yeah.
And so therefore it's probably not a case of doing a career that I don't necessarily align with and it's going to make me miserable. It does need to be done in a way that's, ticking other boxes at the same time.
It's quite refreshing to hear, because it's not everyone thinks like that.
I guess not, no. But for me, it's really not about the money. And although it may seem crazy to say that, it's really not. It's about the journey and just transforming into someone different, right?
Yeah, nice.
And also hoping to open some different conversations up around people and just putting some better, bigger goals out there to the environment. Because I think in New Zealand, having lived overseas in North America, it's quite a different psyche, quite a different culture here. Yeah. I find at times, some people can think a bit smaller. Whereas I'm all about,
You're not allowed to set goals, and that's not a thing we do.
It's a bit taboo, isn't it?
Our culture says, "Oh, don't say it."
Some in some circles, yeah. I guess what I've found though, since putting this out there in the podcast, it's sort of acted as a magnet, right, for like-minded people, and to create a sort of a mini community, which has been awesome. Even this conversation, right?
Yep. Agreed.
So I guess that was a question I had for you actually. Has it always been important who you spend time with? Like you mentioned the guys that you got together with for the business, but has that always been a focus of surrounding yourself with good quality?
Yeah, I've been very lucky that I have super good quality people in my life, and I genuinely like every piece of business or work or whatever it is that I've got into, and I've got into a few things mostly because I just enjoy having a crack at it, and they've always been successful, and they've always been with mates. Because I sort of figure you'll always go further or harder for your mates than you necessarily would for just someone that's your partner, and it's so much more fun. You get so much more benefit out of celebrating those wins. It's probably not, I don't know if because I surround myself with people that are kind of like-minded, then we don't necessarily get the best financial outcomes out of everything we've ever done. Like we are very supportive of the people that work for us, or the things we do that you could probably drive that a different way and have different outcomes, but you got a bit of sleep at night too.
Totally. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think there's a spectrum, isn't there, of like savageness when it comes to business. Like the person, like what's that character? The Scrooge?
Yep.
Yeah, like the real bad capitalist down one end, and then like the other end of it. Yep. And I think, I believe anyway, I think most people are not down the extremes, right? Like most people are wanting good outcomes.
Yeah, I think
generally speaking.
You really do hope so.
Like, there's not many people that are bad people. And will make money at any cost. But, I'd like to think so anyway. But I think going back to what you said about pushing yourself harder, like I was in the gym with a mate recently, and we're just saying that exact same thing, like how you just push yourself so much harder when there's someone else there and you're trying to like outdo them on something. And I think whether that's business or gym or running or anything, I think it holds true, right?
Yeah, one of my best mates, it's him and I that get into all these adventure races and stuff. And whenever we go out training together, to be fair, he's way fitter than I am, so he beats me at everything. But every now and then I get him. It's like, that feeling is like, I got it. Even though we're not racing, but we're always racing.
Right. Yeah, gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, we're all just doing it for the activity,
we're just having a bit of fun.
But let's be honest though. Yeah,
that's right.
We're always keeping track.
Always.
Yeah. What's the next little phase of business look like for you? The next, say, I don't know, 1, 2, 3 years.
We've been very lucky over the part, the construction industry at the moment, and strife's not the right word, but it's challenged. We've been very lucky that we've been able to sort of navigate that through size, some contracts that existed, and some new contracts that we've been able to win. So we've got a good order book. So the next couple of years are really about growing some people, really about giving some people some opportunity to run some jobs, to be more part of it, to kind of, take a step back and actually just deliver better than we ever have. Kind of looking forward to that. There'll still be a focus on winning work, because that bucket never fills.
No.
So that one but that'll take a less. We'll be able to be targeted with what we look at, and respond to customers' needs as opposed to really search for work. Line up some processes, really sort of start to nail. I've been quite careful about not just installing process for process sake. So leaving people the freedom to be creative, to be adaptable, to deliver projects how we want them delivered. But as you grow, you get to a volume of people that really you do need to roll back and make sure you've got some process around some stuff, to make sure that we're delivering consistently. So we'll do a bit of work on that. Maybe have a look at some different opportunities. in different regions, maybe some different industry, which aligns with the way we build. I think that sort of sums up the next couple of years.
Yeah, it must be a tricky one, allowing that level of creativity and autonomy, but also having standards and some form of structure required, right?
It is. It's a consistent challenge, because the balance is so fine that very quickly you find yourself one way or the other, and actually trying to navigate that path where you know you've got enough for people to be safe, but to create some creativity, you know, yeah. Oh, that's the fun bit though.
Yeah.
I enjoy seeing it when you know you've given them just enough to really succeed. We're starting to see some young guys come through the business now that are going to be way better than any of us. They are so good. And
really?
We're putting you can see the support around them they need to better do what they're doing, but at some point we're not going to be able to keep up with them.
Yeah, right.
There's some phenomenal young people coming through.
Interesting.
Industry at the moment. I think through all industry.
I think you're right.
The things they're able to learn, and they're able to learn them differently to us because they've grown up with IT and all of the things that, I don't know if you struggle with it, but I struggle with it a wee bit. I still use my phone just to call people and message them. They're using IT and stuff for everything, and it allows them to move at such a greater pace than we ever could. I think I sound incredibly old saying that, but it's funny how things could.
I hear you. Yeah, I think from my experience as well, there's a cohort of people that I can think of that don't necessarily have those same mental barriers either. They're just sort of they're willing to take risks, and they're confident enough to follow through. They're also not afraid of a bit of hard work as well, and so it's this combination of a few factors.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point actually, because you're right. I think their fear of failure is they don't seem to have it.
They don't.
Same. Yeah.
And whether that's something that will come after they do get a punch in the face, I don't know, but it's an interesting one because it's quite a lot different than what you hear in the media sometimes.
Yes.
Agreed. And it's really nice to see that that's proven wrong.
Yep.
Because it's so easy for the media and like the news to be, young people are just on TikTok all day and
Gen Z chat, isn't it?
Totally, but it's like far out. That might be the case, and I asked one of them once recently. Actually, I was like, "Do you think this is accurate, this news, or is it just like you guys are in this weird little bubble, or what do you reckon?" And he's like, "No, it is. Generally, we are the outliers here." I was like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, right.
That makes me a bit sad. I thought the whole generation was these beasts, but
I guess you could say that about every demographic.
100%.
Maybe they don't. I don't know if you say technology, but just access to things now. Life's probably slightly easy. You don't have to work quite as hard just to do life. I don't know whether that plays into it or not.
Yeah, I don't know either.
That's quite deep thinking.
Yeah, it could be a factor though. Like less friction, like less time spent doing things that don't really matter. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah.
Do you have businesses that you look to as aspirational, like ones that you really like the way their culture is, or you like the way they're run? More on like the bigger size?
That's an incredibly good question.
Either here or further afield.
Yeah. I'm not sure it's anything I've actually ever really thought about, to be honest. That whole benchmarking thing, I probably struggle with a wee bit because we're just kind of out there doing it with what we do. There's certainly bits of business you look at things and go, oh wow, they've really nailed, I don't know, IT, or they've really nailed 3D modelling of things, or and certainly you look up to that kind of stuff, but I don't think I've ever really found myself going, oh, I wish we could be more like, I don't know, someone big.
Yeah,
that's essentially who you always try and sort of measure yourself against, isn't it? Someone that's bigger or got a fancier website or bigger projects. Yeah. I don't know. I need to give that some more thought.
Yeah, I was just thinking, but I don't know if it's still around. There was a podcast called How I Built This. Okay. an American guy. Guy Raz is his name. So he interviewed founders from, like larger US listed companies kind of thing. And it would often just dig into the psychology of the founder or the owner or talk about the direction and all that. And it really dispelled a lot of myths, like you see the listed company and you hear that they're doing evil things and all that. And it just often wasn't true. And so I remember one, it was talking about the restaurant chain Chipotle.
Oh, yeah.
So just talking about a little bit of their psychology and just how just interesting. Yeah.
I guess I'm very, very lucky because we get exposed to senior levels of businesses that like Fonterra, Sinlay, AMP, these big businesses that are predominantly really well run, that we get to see the inner workings of how some of it's like because they're big businesses, but we get some really good insight into that because of the size of projects we deliver for them. I sometimes, you look at elements of what they do and see things and go, oh, that's actually quite smart. Or your ability to invest in not just time. If you need to do something, you can invest people into those things. It's quite smart and something I'd like to do more of. Being able to have, but that's a size thing. Or it's a capacity thing. Sure, I don't really know. That's really under the question either, does it? But yeah.
Oh, I think you can get inspiration and ideas from a number of places, right?
Yeah. I was really lucky. A couple of weeks ago, I had lunch with Greg Foran from New Zealand, and he was talking about the challenges, not too dissimilar. I mean, far bigger scale, but not too dissimilar. With the aircraft they have that are not able to work, with aircraft that land somewhere and have a problem, and how do you then organise all of the things to make sure. And it's really interesting from his point of view because of the resource he was able to throw at all those problems, but they're still ultimately just as much of a challenge.
Interesting.
But it was really interesting to hear him talk about that in that respect. So it's like our challenges and things we try and deliver on and try and deliver better on are actually not too misaligned. I found that quite interesting conversation.
Yeah, it's interesting because you may think that money can solve everything, but it really can't necessarily, can it?
You still need smart people.
You still need smart people and the ability to act and actually execute, right? Yeah. That's a good example of a business that I think from a customer, like there's so much good tech and user-friendly type initiatives, right?
Yeah, for all intents and purposes, they seem like that kind of model businesses where they seem to have engagement at all levels through the business. You walk onto the plane, you get greeted like you haven't been seen before. Or greeted like old family. Sorry, they're that's the sort of level of engagement we're all trying to achieve, right?
Yes, yeah.
They're a good model business.
Totally.
That's probably something.
There you go.
Yeah.
I knew it was in there somewhere. Yeah. I like that. Yeah. I think I saw over the weekend actually Xero is one of the most valuable companies in New Zealand.
Yeah, right.
Which I guess it makes sense.
I think they've had an incredible people focus, and they employed all of the best people when it first set up. That makes sense to me.
Yeah. Do you use Xero?
Do use Xero.
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't use Xero at FPC. Use Xero for Elevate, and use it personally. But I saw your question the other day. We took a long time. Our accountant is the guru, and he got us onto Xero, and Xero is a platform that has changed the way. Like, I love being able to look on my phone and see exactly how the business is performing today, not tomorrow, and it links with everything. So it links within the trucks, it links with V-Work, it auto generates invoices. It's phenomenal.
It's fully dialed in.
Oh, it's so good.
12 out of 10.
Yeah. The old days of generating invoices and trying to do it all yourself is just so far gone, and trying to turn that into a P&L or a report. Oh, we've got banking covenants you've got to meet each month. Xero just spits that out.
Yeah, it's wild to think how far accounting has come in the last, 5 7-8 years,
Yeah.
10 years maybe.
Well, our accountants now are far more advisors than they are accountants, right?
Yeah.
And each year they push a few buttons and spit out a tax return. But especially in Elevate, our accountants, part of our board meetings, just part of everything you do. Every time we look to make a decision around purchasing a new plant or changes or cash position or understanding, looking at, they're involved in that discussion because they can spit the reports out in a second, and then it's the analysis of that and moving forward that they've had to really change their practices.
Yeah, and I think it couples nicely with the visualization, even just on the dashboard, right?
Yeah.
Those couple of key default graphs. So good.
You can't hide from it.
No, it's very.
It's so right there.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's there wherever you are. It's not. There's no excuse
Nah.
to go, have you seen what's going on, or vice versa? If you like, how good is what's going on?
Well, I guess that was the method behind that poll. Actually, was just around precision and just having full clarity on it. Like I'm probably no different than a lot of people out there that it's generally good. It's probably 8 out of 10, but it's just not. There's a few outlying situations that, I think some tweaking would be good. Yeah.
Well, Aaron Cassidy, WK.
Aaron Cassidy, the man.
He is a guru.
Yeah.
He's very, very smart, or very switched on, and he's actually quite a nice human as well, which
Well, that's always nice.
not too many accountants fall into that category.
No. What did you mention? Elevate.
Elevate is it's my favorite. So that was a group of us that played touch together 10, 11 years ago. One of the group, Harry, he drove trucks for another trucking firm, and every time after touch we'd go to the Hallsville Crowbar for a beer and have a yak. Okay, when are we buying your truck, Harry? And his wife turned up to one of the sessions, and we asked her, hey, Alex, when are we buying Harry a truck? And next minute she's like, okay, we're buying Harry a truck. So we got together and we bought Harry a truck, and Harry's just grown from strength to strength. So that's 10, 11 years old now. He's got 8 or 9 trucks. He's running in Tauranga. So much fun.
How good.
So much fun.
Yeah.
And that's a great, it's not a test business because you don't try things, but we can try anything in that business and it's safe to fail. People engagement, technology, whatever it might be. And if you get something wrong, it's not going to be catastrophic, and we're all close enough with it to understand what the consequences been straight away. We're just trying some of the new meta marketing type stuff. We've never done a real marketing campaign before. We're going to have a go because what could go wrong? I've been incredibly impressed too off the back of that, all the analytics and things that come out of that as to what's actually going on. Like there's far more to it than what meets the eye. But yeah, it's fun. It's fun when you see the trucks around all the time around town, and it's fun when you still get that little buzz every time you see them. My camera scroll has got trucks sitting on it.
So good. And that just came about through a couple of beers at the pub after touch.
That's how most of the organic good things, that's kind of where they drive from, right?
I think there's some truth in that. Yeah.
That's when you get yourself into a lot of trouble too.
Well, you're either win or you learn, I suppose.
That's right. Yeah, well, it's good. It's good when it's those sorts of opportunities. I've got yarning about multiple other things that have ended up with. Oh man, a mate got yarning one night at the pub about going to Everest Base Camp, and then next minute we've booked Everest Base. Those sort of things. Like, there's all sorts of things that come out of those inconsequential yarns that you go, oh, that's not a stupid idea. We should do that.
That is
listen to.
That is the value of it, though, right?
Yeah.
Those kind of conversations and environments that, there's this whole movement away from drinking, rightly or wrongly, but there is some good that comes out of it, right?
I was just about to say it's not the pub anymore. It's now when you're out on your mountain bike or something like that.
Right. Gotcha.
Yeah, that seems to be. It's quite a nice thing that life's moved away from the pub and the golf course, to be fair, because terrible at golf. And the pub's not a great environment if you want to live for a long time, is it?
No.
But, so being out in the hills or out for a run is far more far more enjoyable.
Yeah. I sort of found that with IHF, right? Just how it's sort of like a modern day pub, like it's got a cafe in it, and so the chances of running into someone and having an impromptu chat, so good.
And that's the gold. I reckon the conversations that you're not expecting to have that suddenly become about something that's important, they're the ones where your guard's down, and they're the ones that you should listen to. Well, they're the ones that if you do listen to, geez, you have a good time.
Yeah, I feel like that's where the creativity can really come out, where it's not premeditated. It's not we're going to get together and we're going to be creative.
Yeah. And especially if you're not wired to be, I don't have a creative bone in my body. So doing that kind of thinking and being outside of the square doesn't come naturally to me until you're in those sorts of spaces and you're just challenging things. Yeah.
So have you fully subbed out the pub for the mountain bike and the adventure? Pretty much. Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Interesting.
Try to.
Yeah.
I really enjoy what comes out of if you can maintain some level of fitness, the things that come out of that, like a couple of mates are going to go run the Abel Tasman in a few weekends' time, that we can do in a day. Like that's one of New Zealand's most beautiful walks that we're just going to go and get through. I've been involved in these adventure races. I've done 4 or 5 different 5-day mountain bike races in Australia. Like, it's great.
That's cool.
You don't get any of that out of being down the pub.
No, that's a really good point. Yeah. Do you think there's a shift moving away from it, not just in your immediate circle, but in the larger? Yeah.
Yeah, I see that at work because, construction has always been, should we go to the pub after work? That still happens a bit, but you see the guys are so much more open to go and set up an indoor cricket session. Or we've run for all of our staff out of Piha. There's a guy, Dave Wood, that runs Come Under Pressure, a workshop, which is spiritual breathing, whole of life type teaching in a beautiful environment. That's not, it's not woosa, it's science and just there, right, confronting in front of you. And if you'd done that 5 years ago, the uptake or the enjoyment of that probably wouldn't have been there. Now the guys lap it up.
They love it.
They love it.
Yeah.
He's an important part of our business now.
Work it.
Mental health, first aid, those sorts of things are becoming so much more important than what we used to do.
The old team building and golf days. Yeah.
So I don't hate that. I think that's a great place that I don't know if New Zealand's moving. I think New Zealand's moving there.
I think so.
I support that. I'm into it.
Yeah.
Less golf too.
Yeah.
The less people that are playing golf, the better.
Yeah. It's just interesting. I guess like a lot of people sort of tend to hang out in the same circles, right? Same world, and so it's often interesting just to fact check whether that's just me. Is that my reality, or is it a wider truth?
I think it is wider.
Yeah.
I think if you go back to the UK, the pub culture is still very alive. But the pub culture in the UK is so much different to New Zealand's pub culture. But they're going down for a yak with their mates, and it just happens to be in the pub. Whereas here, the drinking was becoming the thing that was the more important thing than having a yak with your mates.
True. Yeah. It's an intentional choice. We're going to go get messed up. Yeah. We might talk, we might not. Yeah. Interesting. I've noticed a real shift in a number of retreats starting up, and cold immersion stuff and breathing stuff. Like, it's so good.
Well, I started my week with that. This week I went down to. Tried to start a new ritual on Mondays. Hopefully it's not one of those fad things, but I go down to the gym and do a strength session, and then cold water and sauna.
Nice.
Such a good way to start the week. Probably different to what if I told you I was doing that 5 years ago, you're like, why would you be doing that? But actually you start the week really agile.
Yes.
And the amount of people that were there doing the same thing.
It's definitely a movement.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've started the same thing on Monday mornings, 5 till 7. And this morning, alarm goes off 4:30. I'm like, I'm just like, oh man, not in the mood for this. But I just knew that if I didn't, I'd look back on it and just regret that. So got out and got into it.
Early start though.
Oh, it's I mean, it's the only way. Yeah.
I'm a firm believer in early start.
Yeah.
Love it. Because I don't reckon you'd achieve much at the end of the day. Well, I can't achieve much at the end of the day.
No.
I can achieve a lot if I'm up. And there's this weird thing, I don't know, this might be just how I'm wired, but there's this weird thing that happens if you're out in your car or driving around, starting your day, doing your thing, knowing that everyone else is still in bed, like you've won.
Yeah, there's something about
You're
it.
ahead.
Yeah, 100%.
You don't get that if you're driving around your car at 10 o'clock at night.
No,
Yeah.
no good's happening out there.
That's
no.
right.
I reckon there's a couple of different types of persona though, right? Like there is the night owl,
Yes, yeah.
but it seems like the majority is the morning.
I think maybe that's who we hang around.
Maybe, yeah.
But yeah, if you won that, if you start ahead, you struggle to fail for the rest of it.
Yeah, there's something about it, right? Just being out there, it's just like peaceful. There's no distractions. There's no noise.
Yeah.
Either, physical noise or phones or whatever, right? Yeah, big fan.
Yeah.
I like it. You got a favorite book? Or a couple?
I completely change what I'm reading from week to week. I have really enjoyed reading quite a bit about, I never really understood Israel, Gaza, Palestine. Never, and I'd watch the news and go, so I've read, I'm going to struggle for titles now, but I've just been doing a deep dive into that to understand from different points of view. I really enjoy a biography. I really enjoy just reading someone else's story or listening to someone else. The best thing Kindle ever did was that thing where you can read a bit and then listen to the same spot. So you can switch between actually reading and so.
Oh wow, that's cool.
That's how I consume my books. I don't read a huge amount about business because I find it. It's probably wrong to say, but I find it quite boring. Like it's just how someone else has done it. And it's not the right answer for the sort of thing we're yarning about. But I find people's stories far more interesting than I find analysing something.
27 steps to... Yeah.
I've always had a soft spot, and it's not a great book because if you look at some of the businesses that are in it, a lot of them are broke, but Good to Great.
Oh, yeah.
It's always been... I would have read that 3 or 4 times. And not because I just find it an interesting, like the principles that are in it are just quite interesting and kind of resonate a lot with what I see with what I do. I should probably expand that a bit further, but
I guess the title says a lot in itself, right?
yeah.
And I think that's the case with a lot of books, actually.
Yeah.
Not to say that you don't need to read them, but the title and the description in itself
Yeah, it's true.
sort of defines the outcome, right?
Yeah. The Bronze book. I've just finished the Bronze book.
Oh, yeah.
That is phenomenal.
Cool.
That was a good read. Basketballers are tricky though, because basketballers are very much an individual sport. So there's not a lot of reliance on the team. But I find it an incredibly interesting read. Same as Michael Jordan. I found Michael Jordan a wee bit challenging in that space too. But really mix it up.
Did the Gaza one help you understand it? Did you walk away feeling like I get it now? I understand both sides.
Yeah. Well, you understand that it's so much bigger than what those two are up to. I don't know if anyone can actually understand it.
No.
But you realise that it's not as simple as it's just bad.
It's just
a crazy melting pot of all sorts of things going on, and you can understand why people are passionate on all sides and how they're going to resolve that. I mean, they need to resolve it. How that's going to occur, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess it's a lot like any big topic or war or conflict, right? It's often a very complicated thing, and I think people tend to try and simplify it, but it's impossible.
Yeah, it's very easy to simplify because you go, well, all these things are happening and they're all bad, and it's true. and you wonder why they can't. I always wondered why they just couldn't just go and resolve it. Just can't sort it out.
Surely.
Do whatever you need to. Do some things, but
Yeah.
religion and politics, very challenging.
But I guess being a problem solver, right? You gotta try to want to solve it. Surely there's a way.
Well, you do that, and that's the place that I think you can very easily get yourself to.
Yes.
And with a lot of those things, like if you look at a lot of conflict around the world and the way, I look at what did we just sail through the other way, Taiwan Strait? Like, why are all those things going on? Like
I know.
It's simple if you just look at it without any perspective.
Have you seen any of Ray Dalio's stuff?
I haven't. No.
So you've heard of him? The
loosely heard of
hedge fund manager. He's I think in maybe the top 20 or so wealthiest.
Yeah, okay, I do know.
But why I bring him up, he's got this YouTube content, like animated content designed to explain complicated ideas.
Right.
And there's this half an hour video. I didn't anticipate watching this, but it was so engaging. And I just walked through this whole economic cycle and how it relates to wars and how it relates to larger, political things. And I was like, I still don't understand it, but it's at least helped to break it into cycles of how it works and power and like all this stuff. Yeah, it's interesting. And by animating it, it sort of holds the attention a bit more than if you were to read that in a book. You might be asleep, but
it's quite smart. The way there's a lot of commentators, a lot of people that are starting to move that way. As far as, isn't it? We did the same. We're not the same. We're not in that, but we moved our induction presentation, which was normally just a yarn, to a video, so that people could get, because they're so much more engaged with it, because that's all you're watching videos and things all day.
Yeah, yeah, totally. That was we mentioned a company before. That was one of the reasons I went to go work there. Actually, was VR technology.
Right.
So doing induction training using a headset.
Yeah, right.
Just to bring engagement and to enhance learning and actual buy into the process. Yeah. But a bit early, I think. Yeah,
starting to take off now, isn't it?
Yeah. Did you see that Meta announcement with the glasses? They're kind of like giant Ray-Bans, but they have like...
I desperately want some Apple glasses. I was like, I reckon we should just buy some and just see what happens with them. But there's a whole lot of software and things you need before you can start pushing buildings onto them and stuff like that. I'll keep working on it.
It's close though, surely.
Yeah, it must be. And they're not that expensive. I was like, I'll keep working on it.
The Vision Pro, you mean?
I think it is.
Yeah. I tried some in Brisbane when I was over there last. Amazing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's come a long way, but I guess you're still in a headset environment, so it's got its limitations. But technology-wise, wow, unbelievable. Yeah. And so for construction, it'd be perfect.
That's where I got to. I was like, imagine if you could look at that wall and see what's behind it.
Oh,
how good!
So valuable.
For me, that's very easy to say. When you go and talk to the guys that know it, they're like, yeah, but Rowdy, then you need this piece of software, you need that thing, you got to do this, and we've got to set it up right. It's like, it's just taking all the fun away from it. We just bought some glasses and went out to site and had a look.
Nah.
No. So,
but it's all modelled anyway, though, isn't it?
They are all modelled.
It's all, so it should all be available.
Oh, and it is, but I quite often have these harebrained schemes. People go, hey, that's all good. Like, we can totally do what you're asking, but it's not the 10 minutes you've taken to come up with it and now tell us. We've now got to go and do days of work to resolve that.
Yeah, exactly. It's this multi
keep working
stage project. Yeah. Is
I like that. They'll go and do it though. If you go, well, should we do this? They'll go and they're all on board with it.
Yeah, well, that's it.
Someone to enable your dreams,
and that's it. I mean, like, look at old mate up on the wall, right? That's like, someone has to create this crazy stuff that did seem crazy at one point. But now it's so the world needs those people, right?
It does,
yeah. It'd be interesting to see where technology goes, right? Using AI at all?
We have started. So Copilot, which auto generates meeting minutes type stuff. We've just uploaded that to a few computers. if I look at the correspondence I see on a daily basis, you can tell that AI is involved in a group of that. You can use AI to generate portions of building design. So we are using, you've got to be careful with it though, because it can seem so accurate, but it's not. And you've got to better work out the nuance between that with some of those things. But if you don't embrace it, you're going to get left behind.
Agreed. Yeah. Got any predictions for what it will be like in the next year or two?
I think we'll see. It would be interesting because I reckon in a typical commercial construction world where there's a lot of letter writing that goes on, I think there'll be a lot of computer generated writing that goes on between groups of people that's not really solving problems. I think advertising for people and vetting CVs will become like you'll need some AI input into that, because we've already seen that there's AI generated job applications starting to flood in. So you advertise a job and you get 200 applicants because someone's set a code up that says, so we've got to work out how to embrace that. We'll see more on building sites. There is incredibly smart technology coming out that will do not the work of people yet, because people can think differently and do some things, but you watch like the Jailbot that Hilti have got that will drill a ceiling out for you and auto GPS located, which no one will want to do anyway. So it's not, we don't have to be fearful of it from that respect. I think the next 10 years we'll see a quantum shift. I remember going to the UK 7 or 8 years ago to university over there and looking at a robot welding a beam column junction that was being tracked in live, so live money, live time, live quality, and that was happening.
Wow.
There was a lot of work that had to go. The robot had to be bolted onto the steel. Like it was clunky, but that was 8 or 9 years ago. If you get to a place in 10 years' time, that'll be automated. There'll be things that are occurring. Prefabrication will be far more accurate than it is at the moment. We still do a lot of it, but its accuracy is sometimes a bit of a challenge. I still quite like driving my car, so I hope that we don't get to that place where we're all rolling around being driven and, trucks are automated, diggers are automated. That'd be a bit hard. But
yeah, it's...
well, you've got a Tesla, haven't you?
I do.
Does it drive you?
When I first got it, it did come with a month worth of the full automation, but it's not quite at the point where it's actually practical yet. Okay. And it seems to be quite elusive.
Yeah, right.
It seems to be one of those things that they're, next month. No, right, okay. Definitely 6 months. We're going to have it for sure, but no.
And not to go too much down a rabbit hole, but I was in San Francisco recently and pulled up beside a car that had all these cameras on it.
The Waymo, was it?
Waymo,
yeah, okay.
Like a Jaguar SUV, nice car.
Right.
No one in it.
Yeah, right.
And then we are in a car, in a Tesla Uber, and just yarning about it. And the guy goes, watch this, keyed in where you wanted to go, took his hands off in the car.
Yeah, right. Gotcha.
That's too far for me.
Yeah, it wasn't anywhere near that good here. Right. And I guess it's just not configured yet, but somewhat crazy, like pretty wild putting your trust in it. It's got that summon thing that they released, and they've subsequently realized how bad it was, and now they've called it like ASS, auto summon, but better or something like that.
Right, okay.
So it's actually like really good. Yeah. And so you can just get your car to come to you in the car park.
But if you think about where that's gone, so car technology over 10 years, you look at the rest of the things that we're just dabbling in at the moment, then 10 years time's crazy. Like you say,
I know.
It's interesting measuring that. I've never had someone ask me what AI influence is going to be in 1 to 2 years, but that's real because it is moving that fast.
I'm constantly amazed by it, like just even using the paid ChatGPT as a dictation tool. So speaking into it for 1, 2, 3 minutes, just brain dumping where I'm at, what I'm working on, it'll get it within 99% accuracy and then read it back, refine thoughts. I found it really, really valuable.
Must be an incredible challenge for schools and universities and things.
Totally.
I don't know how you beat it.
Yeah.
You've got to embrace it. They don't even work out. This has always been the same with Google. Like, you can Google something, but your ability needs to understand if what you're Googling is accurate or not. And to sift the rubbish. We're going to have to do the same with AI generated content, isn't it? That you've got to know that when it's been generated, that what you've seen is actually what you were intending or accurate, to then analyze whether or not that's what you want.
Yeah, you can definitely see the argument that it will make everyone less intelligent.
Yeah.
Because we're not applying any critical thinking, but maybe it could have the reverse effect in that it gives so much context.
That might be okay.
No, I don't know.
If you don't critically think, do you miss it? I've got absolutely no idea.
Yeah, I don't know either. It's wild though. It does feel like every month even there's another tool, and there's another. I've just recently got one that transcribes meetings, so you can just hit record and then it'll summarize what was talked about. What are the action points? It's not quite as accurate as ChatGPT, but it's still pretty good.
That was an incredible. So, had a meeting with James Wallace to talk about Elevate, and within 5 minutes, not even that, I got an email from, I think his chatbot's called Stu or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
An email from Stu, and it was the meeting summarized, and it was near enough to spot on.
It was good enough,
It was like that, and that's why we've got Copilot. We're just trying to Copilot based on the tool.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wild. I think ones like Copilot will be, I guess it'll just be a fact of using a suite of them, right?
Yep.
So there'll be Copilot, there'll be ChatGPT, there'll be like the new Apple one, which will be super handy if you're in the Apple ecosystem.
Yep.
A
lot of money for subscriptions though, as you start to.
Yeah, I guess it depends on which way you look at it. Like if it's 40 there, 100 there, I guess it'll rack up. But I mean, in terms of time and energy saving,
Yeah, true.
I guess for the individual, maybe not the business owner, it could be a choice. But yeah, I don't know.
That's an interesting challenge that we have, that every time you subscribe to a new thing, and whether it be construction management software, costing software, modeling, you add another, they're always revenue based, but you add another, I don't know, 100 grand to you. It's like, at what point does it stop? Copilot's not inexpensive. And then, like you say, do you bolt on the next thing and the next thing? Because you've got to keep up.
That's true, actually.
And so there's this consistent challenge where you go, well, which ones, and maybe your thought process around what you're actually using becomes more critical, as opposed to, do you need those other pieces of software because suddenly you've invested in these, but working out which ones are right for you then and there.
That's a good point, actually. I was just thinking of it through the lens of a small business, but when you start being in the enterprise space and it's per seat, that is when it racks up.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Especially with Copilot, where there's no other option, right? Like it is an inbuilt part of the Microsoft suite. Yeah, fascinating. Yeah. And then I guess you look at the consulting side of it, right? Like, do you implement it yourself? Do you get a consultant to do it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. And there is a new consultancy space being developed for all of that stuff.
Yeah.
They're quite good though, to be fair.
I
haven't had a bad ride yet with someone that's been helping us in those spaces.
Yeah.
Because they very quickly unlock, and that's the challenge, because you go, well, it's an investment here, but it unlocks so much that, well, how could we not do it?
Yes. A bit like we're saying with Xero at the beginning, right?
Yep.
What's that peace of mind worth, to have absolute certainty and have live data that is clean?
Yep.
Pretty valuable.
Yeah. And that's,
Very good.
Yeah.
Mate, I could chat for plenty longer.
Yeah.
But I want to be mindful of your time.
Yeah, it was really good. Thank you.
So good. First podcast under the belt.
First podcast done. Yeah. Thank you for
any parting words, quotes, jokes, wisdom?
What was it? What were we talking about earlier? No. The biggest piece that I've always, like, with what I've done, and making a decision is far more important than making no decision. That's something that's always stuck with me. And if I could tell everyone that, well, I guess I am, then that's always something that's been incredibly important. And you see the outcome of that with lots of people, that if you make a decision and back that decision and have a go, then it will always be better. Even if it's the wrong decision, it will always be a better outcome than not making one and sitting on your hands. So I don't know if that's imparting advice or whatever, but
that's great.
That's something that I've lived by, and I think it's really important. And it's across everything.
That's exceptional. And I guess if I were to just jump in here, I guess the upstream method to being able to make decisions is to create confidence and to create positive momentum, and like whether it's through ice baths and early mornings. If you're confident, then you're going to be able to make decisions better and faster and easier, right?
Love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good.
Nice. Hey, thanks, Andy.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate your time.
Yeah,
thanks for listening, and we'll be back in the next one.
Great.